and one day the prince shows up. Okay. And there's something in my eye, perfect. In Scarlet, because they don't really have anything to do with anything, they're just things that okay, shut up Catherine. Shut up Catherine. Hey everyone, it's me Catherine, and today I'm bringing you my spoiler-free review for the LUNAR Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. This is a science fiction, futuristic fairy tale retelling series. Each book in the series is a retelling of a different fairy tale. There are 4 main books in the series, and I believe there's also a novella which focuses on the antagonist of the story, but I haven't read that, so I have no comment. And the books are Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and the final one is Winter. And although they're all different retellings, they are all linked together in one big massive story. And we start with Cinder, which is a Cinderella retelling, and we follow a young mechanic called Cinder, who is also a cyborg, living in New Beijing. And one day the prince shows up and asks her to fix his android, and then stuff happens from there. So overall, I really enjoyed this series. I did find it to be a bit predictable at times, and there were a few occasions when I found myself rolling my eyes, but apart from that, I did really enjoy this series. I found it to be quite fast-paced, fairly easy to read, and I really enjoyed reading about the characters. They weren't anything new or particularly extraordinary, but I enjoyed reading about them, and I enjoyed seeing their friendships form and their relationships form, because we all know I love seeing characters and their relationships and friendships, and just I love all of that, so I really enjoyed reading about that. And overall, I just found it to be a really enjoyable series. Cinder is my favourite out of all of them, so while I did enjoy the final 3 books in the series, I did enjoy Cinder the most because I enjoyed where Cinder was set, which is New Beijing. The rest of the books sort of take you away from there, and we see lots of other places, which is cool, but I really liked New Beijing, and I really liked that whole setting. It just had that sort of feeling that I love, where it's not all shiny, and I can't even really explain it. I love that feeling, and the rest of the books didn't, so that's why Cinder is my favourite personally. And whilst I did enjoy the series on the whole, the final book, Winter, I did have a problem or two with it. Nothing major. It was to do with a certain character and what happened to this character, and I just felt it was unnecessary and maybe even a little bit mean considering what had already happened to this character and what happened afterwards anyway. I just sort of felt it was unnecessary, and they didn't need to do that to them, so that was a thing that happened that I had a problem with in Winter. But overall, like I said, really enjoyable series and a pretty easy read as well. I mean, there's nothing really new or mind-blowing about it, and there's nothing overly complicated about it. Just a really enjoyable story with a cool concept, cool characters, forming bonds and relationships and friendships and whatnot, and I just really enjoyed it. Now, as for the world itself, I have some questions about the world. So this story is set far, far, far into the future, where the world is now only 6 countries. From the looks of it, it's sort of like, roughly, a continent is now a country, but the UK is also a country on its own, which includes Canada, I think, from the sounds of things. And I have questions about that. The main question being language. As a language student, and with my dissertation being based around using English as a lingua franca, I'm really curious to know what the lingua franca of each country is. What is the main language that the country uses to communicate with each other? And there was mention of a universal language, which I'm assuming is the language that they use to communicate with other countries. What language is that? Because there's no mention of like an auto-translate or anything, so they are speaking the same language, so what language is it? So the Americas are now one country, and I know there's a lot of Spanish-speaking countries in America. Obviously the USA is English-speaking, so I wonder which language won out in the end over being the one that everybody uses to communicate with each other. Is it English? Is it Spanish? Europe, what language do they use in Europe? What's their main language that they use to communicate with each other? Because I'm assuming they've got to have one. Or do they all learn the universal language, whatever that is, to communicate with each other, and then in their own province, I think as each country is referred to now, each country is a province, do they use that there? Because there is uses of French in Scarlet because they are in France, and in New Beijing there are uses of Chinese suffixes at the end of names. They use things like ge and Mei, J. I don't think they use a little brother one, I cannot remember because I don't speak Chinese. But I just thought that was really interesting, like what language is it that they use, because there is a universal one, and have other languages now, are they now just dialects? Obviously it's been quite a few years since they made these countries, so obviously language has evolved and changed, and do their original languages, are they now sort of like dialects? Have they merged into whatever the universal is and sort of made different dialects and things? And what I mean, probably nobody cares, and maybe even Marissa Meyer hasn't really given it much thought, but I find that really interesting, just sort of to know what language it is that they speak. Because they can communicate with the people on the moon. So did the moon people have their own language, or do they just speak the universal language all the time? And what? I have a lot of questions. Also, I find it interesting that the Eastern Commonwealth, which is what I'm assuming was Asia, is now ruled by a royal family. A royal family with Japanese names, which I thought was interesting. What happened, because I don't think China hasn't had a royal family in a long time, so interesting that they made the capital of the Eastern Commonwealth in China, in Beijing, or New Beijing, as the old Beijing got destroyed, with a royal family who is of Japanese, I'm assuming Japanese descent. I mean, they're living in China, so obviously they're being born and raised in China, so they're Chinese now, but they still have Japanese names. I just find that really interesting. So what made them shift? I mean, I guess if the Japanese royal family were decided to rule this country, it makes sense for them to shift to China, which is obviously on the mainland. Japan is a little island separate, so it makes sense for the capital to be on the mainland, and I guess in China, because China is quite massive. But just the fact that it is a royal family, and does China have a president? I'm not sure what rules China. I don't know enough about it, but I just thought that was really interesting and things. And I have a lot more to say, but my camera is running out of memory, so I'm going to leave it there, guys. So overall, really enjoyed this series. I do recommend you pick it up if maybe you're interested in reading some more sci-fi, but don't want to jump into the heavier stuff. This is pretty light, pretty simple, and still sci-fi with cyborgs and stuff, and it's really cool, and I really enjoyed it. So that is that. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the Lunar Chronicles and whether I should read Fairest or not, because I know a lot of people are just like, don't bother with it, but I think 1 or 2 people have enjoyed it, so who knows, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in another video. Bye!
We're out in the fresh air, Catherine. Which is always a good thing.
We're going to take a picture of the thing we tried to take a picture of when we first came. In front of the thing we tried to take a picture in front of.
Yeah?
Yeah?
I don't remember where that was.
Oh, it's here. Just on the other side.